happy Tuesday. I hope y'all are watching this video and it makes sense to you and we cleared some things up. So today we are looking at word problems. These word problems they become one-step equations once we kind of solve them and work through that process. So that is what we're doing today. So before we start those one-step word problems, I want to look at the one-step equation sheet that you are supposed to be working on today. Should be on page 59 in your math notebook. I sent you an email and told y'all that y'all should be able to do 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. However, number 3, this is one I knew y'all wouldn't be able to do because we haven't done one in class before, and I realized that after I signed it to you, so I'm sorry, that is my fault. But I do want to make sure that we spend time right now going over that one. So if you will flip to page 59 before we start our word problem notes, let's look at this and go over this. So we have 2/3 x equals 27. So this is a one-step equation. We know that we have to draw that line down the center, and remember that keeps our left and our right separate from each other, and it reminds us that they have to be equal, okay? And whatever you do to the left, you have to do to the right. All right, so when solving one-step equations, our ultimate goal is to isolate that variable. All right, so we want to isolate it. In order to isolate it, we have to do the inverse operation. All right, so we have to see what operation is going on with this x. All right, we have a 2/3 x. All right, so a number and a letter side by side means to multiply. So the inverse of multiplication would be to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 2/3. All right, now this is where another step comes in because we have to remember those fraction rules when we divide. We have to KCF, keep, change, flip. So we're really doing 2/3 divided by 2/3. So that's really times 3/2. All right, that leaves us with 1. So that leaves us with just x. Now over here we're doing 27 divided by 2/3. So that's really 27/1 times, we flip it, so 3/2. All right, and I'm not going to make you do the math. This is going to end up being 81/2. So x equals 40 and 5/10. All right, so there we go. You could have left it x equals 81/2. That's fine. You know, I'll accept it because it's an improper fraction, so that's okay. But hopefully that kind of clarifies things with 3. Like I said, we haven't really talked about that in class, so that is my fault that I sent it home, but hopefully that helped. All right, now let's transition to our page 58. And these are your word problems. All right, so I'm going to walk you through some word problems to help you solve one-step equations. And then once you finish this video, you will go back to page 59 and solve those word problems at the bottom. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put the first word problem up there. I'll read it, and then I want you to pause it and write it and copy it down in your math notebook. All right, Lisa's cooking muffins. The recipe calls for 7 cups of sugar. She has already put in 2 cups. How many more cups does she need to put in? So go ahead and pause this video and take time to write that down. All right, so hopefully y'all got that written down. So the first thing we want to do is we want to pull out some key evidence. All right, we're looking at this. We know that Lisa's cooking muffins. The recipe calls for 7 cups. So this whole recipe is going to be 7. Okay, so 7 is kind of like our total of sugar. She has already put in 2 cups. So she's already put 2 cups in there. How many more cups does she need to put in? So the first thing we want to do is we want to identify a variable. All right, and we want to say what this variable is going to equal. So in this case, I'm going to choose C for our variables, and it's going to be cups of sugar because that's what we're wanting to find out. Now you could have done X, you could have done Y. It doesn't matter as long as you keep that consistent, all right? So I'm choosing my variable is going to be a C for cups of sugar. After we have chosen our variable, we want to create an equation, okay? So our equation is going to help us answer this problem. All right, and this is where a little more work comes in because it's a little more trickier because we have to translate this into an equation, okay? So I want us to pull out key numbers. So we said 7 cups was something key. She's already put in 2 cups, and it wants to know how many more cups does she need to put in. All right, so our total is 7. So this whole equation is going to equal 7 because that's how much she's adding into it. That's how much she already needs, okay? Now, she has already put in 2 cups. So there's already 2 cups in this whole thing, all right? So we're going to put 2. All right, how many more cups? So how many more cups of sugar? So that's going to represent our variable, which is C. Does she need to add in? All right, So are we going to add C to this 2 or are we going to subtract it? All right, in this case, we are going to add C. Our last thing is after we have written an equation, we're going to come up with a solution. And just remember, solution's a fancy word for we're going to solve it. All right, so we have this equation, we're going to solve it, so we do our one-step equations. We draw a line. Our ultimate goal is to isolate this variable. So how can we get C by itself? This 2 is attached, so we are going to subtract by 2 on both sides. So that leaves us with C equals 7 minus 2 gives us 5. So Lisa needs to put in 5 more cups. So our solution is C equals 5. Now we can go back and check that. Since we got C 5, we can plug it back into our original equation. So 2 plus 5 does give us 7. So we are good to go. Alright, so that was our first example. Our last example together is going to be example number 2. Our word problem says how many bottles of Sundrop can you buy with $40 if one bottle costs $2? Alright, so go ahead and pause this like normal. Write this down for your word problem number 2. Alright, so hopefully you took time to write that down. And let's just go ahead and look at it. So we're looking for how many bottles of Sundrop can you buy with $40 if one bottle is $2. Alright, so same thing. First, we want to identify a variable. Alright, so we want to identify a variable. We're going to want to know how many Sundrops we can buy in total. So my variable, I'm going to choose S, and S is going to equal Sundrop. Again, you can choose any variable, A through Z, whatever you feel more comfortable using, but I'm going to use S. Alright, so now we are wanting to create an equation. Alright, this equation is going to help us find out how much one bottle costs, okay? So something important to remember is when we write an equation, we never want it to equal the variable, okay? Because there's no point of writing that equation. So that might be something you want to keep in mind, is that when we write equations, we don't want it to equal a variable, okay? So how many bottles of Sundrop can you buy with $40? So we have $40, so that is our total, okay? So $40 equals, if one bottle costs $2. All right, so we need to go back. Is how are we representing Sundrop? We are representing Sundrop with that S, okay? And how much is it? All right, so we know that it's $2 for a bottle of Sundrop. Now, we have to figure out what operation. Are we adding $2? Are we subtracting 2? Are we dividing 2? Are we multiplying 2? Okay, so we're talking about per that Sundrop bottle. Now, you could do 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 until you get to 40, because that represents every time you buy a Sundrop. Or you could just do 2S. And then you could do process of elimination. So you could do 2 times 4, 2 times 8, and plug in numbers for that variable using substitution, okay? So this is our equation, 40 equals 2S. We came up with our equation. Now we want our solution, which is a fancy word for answer. So we're going to solve this one-step equation. So first, we draw a line down from our equal sign. That keeps our left and our right being E separate from each other. We want to isolate this variable, and we isolate the variable by doing the inverse operation. So we have a number and a letter side by side. That operation means to multiply. So the inverse of multiplying would be dividing by 2. And if I divide by 2 on my right, I have to divide by 2 on my left. All right, on my right, I'm left with S. And on my left, 40 divided by 2 gives us 20. So our solution is S equals 20. So therefore, you can buy 20 bottles of Sundrop for $40. All right, so go ahead and try those 4 problems at the bottom of page 59 for you to work on the one-step equations. Those 4 word problems are kind of the same that we just went over. Do that same process and I think you'll be good to go. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Good luck, you guys. You got this.